We open on a legendary battlefield in ancient Greece. An endless sea of soldiers marches to conquer it. The vast Persian Empire descends upon the small Greek states. At the pass of Thermopylae, the Spartans make their stand. But from a cliffside, the Persian commanders watch, unimpressed. Their 30,000 elite soldiers are stalled by just 300. The reason for this stalemate is Greece's greatest warrior, the legendary King Leonidas, a giant among men. Clearly not a history buff, the horned commander leaps into action. He lands with enough force to shatter the very earth. The divine general Datis unleashes a devastating opening strike. He roars that he will crush the Spartan king like an ant. One of his commanders, Siniska, offers to take his place. But Leonidas refuses, leaping alone into the heart of the enemy. The Persian soldiers are stunned by his sudden, terrifying arrival. A single slam of his shield sends a shockwave through their ranks. Beneath the helmet, a crimson glint reveals his true battle fury. Datis calls the charge brave but foolish, a classic villain monologue. The general brings his massive weapon down upon the lone king. He screams for Leonidas to fall and become food for the strong. But Leonidas retorts that knowing how to survive is the true strength. He slides across the ground, absorbing the monumental blow. A confident smirk plays on his lips as he speaks of his home. He roars that Sparta never retreats, launching a counterattack. His kick connects with the general's weapon in a flash of light. Datis is stunned, feeling his entire body being pushed back. The strongest of the divine generals is somehow losing a shoving match. This is the unyielding spirit of a true Spartan warrior. This is the legendary King Leonidas in all his glory. In a contest of strength, the king holds the line against a giant. Datis can't comprehend why someone so powerful stays in a small country. He roars that a king like Leonidas is wasted on a place like Sparta. But their blades remain locked in a stalemate of will and power. The general preaches his simple worldview: the strong devour the weak. Leonidas retorts that Persia's philosophy is no better than a wild animal's. He proudly proclaims that his Sparta is built on a different foundation, a nation where every person, strong or weak, is an equal warrior. His voice then thunders across the pass, a rallying cry for his men. He tells his 300 that they are a single lion against a sea of mice. And as Siniska watches on, he vows that Spartans will never surrender. He issues the legendary challenge, "Come and take it." With a final, earth-shaking roar, he screams for all to hear. This is Leonidas I, the chosen hero of ancient Greece. He is known as Sparta's strongest, a man who became a king. But an ancient scroll reveals a very different origin story. His true identity is a reincarnated office worker from Japan. And just like that, the epic battle gives way to a drab office, where the only war is against last quarter's sales figures. His boss is berating him for his poor performance. Their company motto is, "less than inspiring," to say the least. The boss continues his tirade, saying honesty is useless without results. We meet Leo Take Rio, a 25-year-old employee just trying to survive. The verbal assault continues, questioning how he can even show his face. His colleagues can only watch on, a mix of pity and secondhand shame. For one co-worker, this public dressing down is a familiar sight. She watches the scene unfold with a look of quiet contemplation. He walks away, resigned to the fact that he's always the target. In his mind, he was simply born a loser with no prospects. Later at a bar, a colleague loudly celebrates landing another huge deal. This man, Todoroki, marvels at his own success, a stark contrast to Ryo's day. Todoroki turns his attention to Ryo, asking how he's been lately. Ryo forces a smile, claiming he's doing just fine. His colleague admits he was worried Ryo's life was over. He then brags about a girl impressed by his elite company. He even offers some unsolicited dating advice to our boy. But Ryo's phone buzzes on the table, a sudden interruption. It's a barrage of angry texts from his section chief. A wave of panic hits Ryo as he realizes his mistake. Todoroki casually suggests he just lie to get out of it. The thought settles in. All he has to do is lie. But the fear of getting caught paralyzes him completely. Staring at his phone, he's trapped in a spiral of panic. Todoroki casually dismisses the boss's late-night demand. He urges Ryo to just lie and enjoy the rest of the night. For a moment, the simple solution seems so appealing. But the image of his boss's fury floods his mind again. He's completely paralyzed by a classic corporate dilemma. He begins to question what separates him from his colleague. He remembers their school days, when they were both just losers. But somewhere after graduation, their paths split dramatically. He recalls his college days, where his honesty cost him every job. Todoroki, a master of deception, landed a prestigious job with ease. Ryo's reality is a dead-end job with terrible pay and long hours. He once saw Todoroki as a fellow loser, but now they're worlds apart. He checks the time, the glow of the monitor, his only company. His watch confirms it's well past 3 in the morning. He slumps in his chair, having missed the last train home. The company sign, a cheerful smiley face, mocks his misery. The morning starts with a familiar scene. His boss's angry tirade. He forces a pained smile, his coworker watching with concern. Rio retreats to the one place of solace in the office, the break room. His lunch for the day is a sad cup of instant noodles. He stares blankly, the taste of defeat stronger than the miso, but his lonely meal is suddenly interrupted by a knock at the door. It's his coworker, the one who saw him get chewed out earlier. Rio is completely stunned that she's even talking to him. This is Asuka, the undisputed goddess of the sales department. And for some reason, she wants to speak with him, of all people. Our boy can barely form a coherent thought in her presence. She then drops a bombshell. She's been watching him and thinks he's cool. Rio's brain completely short-circuits at her words. His mind leaps to the only possible conclusion. She likes him. But Asuka clarifies that his inability to lie is what's truly cool. Our boy is officially broken, stuck in a state of pure disbelief. She rants about their toxic office, where lying is seen as justice. A slow, hopeful smile creeps across Rio's face. She admits she's been watching him work hard this whole time. She offers him a small gift, a token of her encouragement. Asuka tells him to take care of his health until his day comes. After all, a daily diet of instant noodles is a cry for help. Rio can barely stammer out a thank you, completely flustered. With Asuka on his side, he thinks he might just survive this hell. His mind immediately leaps to a future with her. A classic overthinker, but his daydream is cut short by a senior colleague. Murakami-senpai has a new urgent task for him. It's a massive, confidential project for a new apartment complex. Rio questions why he'd be chosen for such a huge responsibility. Asuka's encouraging words echo in his mind, a promise of recognition. Fueled by this newfound motivation, he eagerly accepts the challenge. With a fire in his eyes, he declares he will take on the project. He works through the night, the hours blurring together. Fueled by coffee and a desperate hope, he pours everything into it. Asuka's gift sits on his desk, a small beacon of encouragement. He vows to succeed, to finally become a man worthy of her. The next morning, he greets his senior with newfound confidence. He proudly presents his work, ready to impress his colleague. But Murakami casually informs him the project has been canceled. Rio's world comes to a screeching halt, his mind unable to process. His senior just smirks, enjoying the utter devastation on his face. And then he bursts into laughter, because corporate life is just that fun. Murakami reveals it was all just a cruel prank. He scoffs that he'd never trust Rio with a real project. The entire office joins in, calling him the team's dead weight. They even joke about shipping him out like unwanted cargo. Another colleague mocks his inability to lie, calling him sensitive. They slap a fragile sticker right onto his back. Rio collapses to the floor, utterly humiliated by their laughter. But something inside him finally snaps, telling them to stop. That project was his one chance to finally impress Asuka. He stops in his tracks as a new thought begins to form. He realizes they'd never trust a real project to the office loser. He retreats to the break room, deciding that hope is the real enemy. But a familiar voice from inside stops him in his tracks. It's Asuka, and just like that, a flicker of hope returns. He reaches for the door, ready for another dose of her gentle encouragement. But the sounds from within are not exactly encouraging. Through the window, he sees two figures in a compromising conversation. It's Asuka, getting intimate with none other than his colleague Todoroki. Ryo's entire world shatters in a single horrifying moment. The office goddess was just another part of his corporate nightmare. Todoroki's hand moves in, a gesture of casual intimacy. They share a passionate kiss, shattering Ryo's last hope. Through the window, his eyes reflect a world turned to ash. He questions what he was even thinking, what he was hoping for. He finds himself on a rooftop, realizing he has nothing left. A dark thought takes root. Maybe it's time to end it all. He looks out at the city, lost in the weight of his delusion. He finally accepts the label they've always given him, a loser. How could he ever think a girl like Asuka would choose him? He grips the railing with nothing to his name and nothing to lose. He climbs over the railing, his mind listing all his shortcomings. If only he were smarter, better looking, or from a wealthy family. He concludes that with nothing to his name, he has nothing to lose. But one look down at the dizzying height sends a jolt of fear through him. He flinches back from the edge, his body betraying his dark resolve. He can only laugh at how pathetic he is, clinging to the railing for dear life. Tears fall as he realizes he doesn't even have the courage to die. Suddenly, a blinding light and a powerful wind erupt behind him. He's dragged backward, away from the edge against his will. His hand is ripped from the railing as he's pulled into the unknown. Rio is flung through the air, his world turning upside down. He screams, his voice lost to the rushing wind. As his consciousness fades, he makes one final desperate wish. A single sliver of light cuts through the endless darkness. His eyes slowly open to the face of a beautiful, unknown woman. He reaches out, wondering if this is heaven, or just another delusion. But as he looks at his hands, a shocking truth dawns on him. He's been reborn as a baby, a very loud and very confused baby. His new mother looks down at him, a picture of grace and nobility. And just like that, Reo decides this life is already a massive upgrade. But the peace is shattered by an urgent command to see the elder. Rio is passed into the hands of a grim, weathered man. The elder gives him a rather invasive full-body inspection. He immediately declares the child has a weak constitution. With the Persian threat looming, he says they can't afford any burdens. His judgment is swift and brutal. Throw the child into a ravine. Rio's mind, still processing his rebirth, can't believe what he's hearing. He's brought to the edge of a chasm, his fate sealed by tradition. As he's lifted to the sky, he realizes he's about to be killed again. This isn't a second chance. It's a speed run to a second death. But just as the deed is done, the elder hesitates. He calls a halt, demanding one final look at the child. He stares into the baby's eyes, searching for something. And in their depths, he sees a legendary sign. The child's pupils burn with the crimson fire of Heracles. Reo is completely lost, while his mother sees a glimmer of hope. The elder reasons that if he is Heracles, he can survive anything. So instead of death, he sentences the boy to a life of slavery. The word echoes in Reo's mind, a fate worse than death. Apparently, starting from the bottom is his eternal curse. His new mother and the elder contemplate what to name him. They christen him Leonidas, child of the lion, a name full of hope. 13 years flash by in an instant. Leonidas was raised in a village where slaves were gathered to live. For 13 long years, he has known nothing but hard labor. He's never even met the parents from this new life. He learns that Sparta is a nation of two classes, citizens and slaves. The small state is surrounded by rivals in the mighty Persian Empire. To protect their home, the citizens endure famously harsh training. This is the very nation that inspired the term Spartan education. He's once again a bottom-tier slave, his days spent farming. The citizens' quotas are strict, leaving the slaves with scraps. He holds his tiny portion, a stark reminder of his new reality. But a part of him is strangely relieved to be a slave. Unlike his old office job, he's no longer the company dead weight. Another slave calls out to Leo as the collectors are on their way. He accepts his lot with a smile, ready to finish the task. Several days pass, and the scene shifts forward in time. At a Spartan granary, soldiers discuss Persia's divine generals. They dismiss the victory, full of that famous Spartan confidence. They boast that against the Spartans, any enemy would be crushed. But their conversation is interrupted by a polite young man. He introduces himself as one of the 12 divine generals. His name is Aslam, and he's looking for a friendly match, a challenge delivered with a disarmingly pleasant smile. He stands before the Spartan guards, a lone figure of calm authority. He is the 11th general serving directly under the Persian king. The soldiers are stunned, wondering how he bypassed their defenses. Aslam simply smiles as if trying to recall a minor detail. He then reveals the grim fate of the guards who stood in his way. With a confident smirk, Aslam agrees to their match, claiming 3 opponents is perfectly fine by him. The enraged Spartans charge forward, warning the arrogant kid he'll soon regret his words. They surround him in a flurry of spear thrusts, but the general moves like a phantom between their strikes. Peeking from behind his blade, Aslam scoffs at their skills, calling Greece's strongest warriors a disappointment. In a flash of steel, 2 of the Spartans are instantly taken out of the fight. The last soldier stands in stunned silence, his helmet knocked aside as he processes the sudden defeat of his comrades. Fueled by rage, he bellows that no one mocks Sparta and lunges forward for a final desperate attack. But his wild swing leaves him wide open, and he can only stare in shock as his arm is wounded. Aslam looks down on him with pity, utterly unimpressed that Sparta's finest fell to the lowest-ranked divine general. The defeated Spartan can only glare back, his pride shattered and his heart filled with pure hatred. The soldier's face contorts in horror at the general's words. Aslam casually wipes his blade, questioning if they were even real warriors. He smiles, saying he would have loved a proper match with them. That day, the fires of war reached Sparta's very doorstep. The nation's granary fell, taken down by a single divine general. Back in the slave village, the burden falls on the lowest class. They're told it's to prepare for Persia's impending invasion of Greece. One slave complains, pointing out they're the ones feeding the nation. He's quickly reminded that complaining is a fireable offense, literally. Leonidas knows the truth. To the Spartans, slaves are not people. He flashes back to his old life, realizing the cruelty is the same. It seems that no matter the world, terrible bosses are a constant. He wonders if bullying the weak is just a timeless human tradition. But his dark musings are interrupted by a gentle voice. A young woman with a kind smile approaches him. Our boy is immediately flustered by the unexpected attention. He stammers awkwardly, trying and failing to play it cool. She introduces herself as Eva, asking for his name in return. He nervously wipes his brow, managing to introduce himself as Leonidas. Eva explains she's a newcomer, recently moved from a nearby village. Leonidas stammers, trying to process her words. He learns her village was completely destroyed in the recent attack. He awkwardly asks about her family's safety. Eva explains that her mother passed away when she was young. Leonidas finds a strange connection, admitting he never knew his mother either. She smiles, noting the sad similarity in their pasts. But her gentle expression suddenly shifts to one of alarm. A man's voice calls out for her, startling them both. She immediately runs towards the voice with Leonidas close behind. He peeks inside, his eyes widening in shock at the scene before him. Inside, Eva tends to her father, who is clearly very ill. Leonidas watches from the doorway, a look of admiration on his face. He clenches his fist, determined to find a way to help them. And just like that, a classic cartoon light bulb appears over his head. The sun sets over the Spartan hills, marking the end of the day. In a field, Leonidas works tirelessly, using a hand drill to cultivate the earth. But he pauses, suddenly questioning why he's doing all this for a girl he just met. The painful memory of Aska's betrayal floods his mind, a warning against being fooled again. He holds up a hand, physically stopping the intrusive thought. He realizes this isn't about Eva, but his own fear of being hurt again. He realizes this isn't about Eva at all, but his own lingering trauma. Shaking off the past, he gets back to the task at hand. He triumphantly finds the medicinal herbs he was searching for. But overlooking the village, Spartan soldiers have arrived. They're hunting for fugitives, and believe the slaves are hiding them. Their solution is simple. If they're accomplices, wipe them all out. Meanwhile, inside a small hut, the fugitives are unaware of the danger. It's Eva and her father, the very people the soldiers are hunting. A sudden knock at their door sends a jolt of fear through the room. Eva turns, surprised to see Leonidas standing there. He proudly offers the medicinal herb, hoping it will help her father. A simple plant, a small token of kindness in a harsh world. Eva is touched by his thoughtfulness, calling him kind. But Leonidas waves it off, saying it's just normal to help people. His simple decency seems to catch her completely by surprise. She smiles, glad to know she's not the only one who feels that way. As she takes the herb, their hands brush for a fleeting moment, and our boy's social skills immediately blue screen. He's reduced to a blushing, stammering mess, unable to form a single word. He then makes a hasty retreat, leaving Eva holding his gift. Eva is left holding the herb, confused by his hasty retreat. Later that night, Leonidas lies under the stars, admitting Eva is really cute. His daydream is suddenly interrupted by her voice, thanking him for helping her father. He turns to find Eva standing right there, asking if she can join him. The two sit together in a moment of peaceful, if slightly awkward, silence. Leonidas can't help but steal glances at her, completely flustered. She notices him shivering and decides to make a move. In a quiet gesture, she adjusts his cloak for him, offering a soft thank you. She then asks what he was doing, and he blurts out that he was watching the stars. Our boy immediately cringes at his own cheesy line, but Eva seems genuinely interested. He points to the sky, sharing a story about the Andromeda constellation. He recounts the legend of a hero saving a princess from a monster. Eva finds the tale romantic, while Leonidas admits his source material is manga. She then playfully suggests that he would be her hero. Our boy's brain short-circuits as she says she's only joking. But the lighthearted moment fades as the conversation turns serious. She reveals a dark Spartan custom, a coming-of-age slave hunt. It was during one of these hunts that her mother was killed protecting her. She blames herself, believing her own weakness led to her mother's death. But before she can fall deeper into despair, Leonidas grabs her arm. He grabs her shoulders, shouting that none of this is her fault. Eva is taken aback by his sudden, fierce defense of her. Realizing he just yelled at a girl, our boy gets adorably flustered. He insists that the real problem is the country's cruel system. His mind flashes back to the corporate world, a place just as savage. He screams that society is meant to be about helping one another. His words seem to strike a chord with Eva, who listens intently. A newfound resolve dawns on her face, a gentle but firm smile. She declares her role is to protect her father, just as her mother protected her. Leonidas is stunned by her strength, her will to keep fighting. He reflects on his own words, realizing Eva is the opposite of his past life. Inspired by her resolve, he offers to do anything she asks. A small smile plays on her lips as she takes him up on his offer. She asks for a small favor: overthrow the entire government. Our boy is completely stunned by the scale of her request. She explains that to the citizens, the lives of slaves are worthless. She dreams of a nation where they can live without fear. Her earnest plea leaves Leonidas blushing and at a loss for words. She playfully reminds him that he did say he would do anything. She then offers him a small pendant, sealing their promise. She places the pendant in his hand, calling it a token of their promise. Our boy panics, realizing he has nothing to give her in return. But Eva smiles, telling him he's already given her a priceless gift. She says his story of Andromeda will give her strength in dark times. Her attention is suddenly caught by a shooting star in the night sky. She closes her eyes, clasping her hands to make a silent wish. Leonidas, ever the smooth operator, asks what she wished for. With a playful smile, she puts a finger to her lips, calling it a secret. He can only stare, completely captivated by her presence. But their peaceful moment is shattered by a sudden unseen disturbance. A Spartan soldier declares they're hunting rebels in the village. From the hill, they watch as soldiers set the slave huts ablaze. Eva panics, realizing her father is in danger, and sprints toward the chaos. Down below, the soldiers show no mercy, brutalizing the unarmed slaves. The commander confirms the fugitive's location with a terrified informant. He stands over Eva's father, sword raised, declaring rebellion a grave crime. Leonidas and Eva race against time, desperate to intervene. But the blade falls in a swift, merciless arc. A severed hand hits the ground, a grim testament to Spartan justice. And just like that, Eva's father is executed before their very eyes. Eva screams in horror as her father clutches his bleeding stump. With his last ounces of strength, he begs her to run, but she refuses to leave him. Leonidas is frozen, unable to comprehend their casual brutality. The soldiers approach, pleased that their second target has arrived. The commander coldly recites the law. For a slave, rebellion means death. He looms over them, a clear symbol of their absolute power. His men decide to make a game of it, a coin toss for their lives. Because of course they do. Leonidas watches, his blood boiling at the sight of them enjoying this cruelty. His first instinct is to save Eva, but a familiar fear takes hold. He's just a slave boy. How can he possibly fight these trained killers? He's trapped between certain death and, well, also certain death. Memories of his past life flood his mind, a lifetime of being a doormat. He realizes that even in a new world, he's still the same coward. As the soldier flips the coin, their fates hang in the balance. Leonidas is frozen, his mind screaming in a desperate panic. He can't even protect the one person who showed him kindness. As the coin falls, Eva's words echo in his memory, her plea to become king and change this cruel world. And in that instant, something inside him finally breaks. With a surge of newfound will, he snatches the coin from the air. The soldier smirks, revealing the coin landed on tails. His comrade raises his blade, ready to send Eva to her father. But a blinding light erupts from Leonidas, stopping them cold. Eva watches, stunned by this sudden surge of power. The soldier's smug confidence shatters into pure panic. In a flash, Leonidas throws his own tunic at the man's face. The soldier is completely disoriented, his vision obscured. When he looks up, he sees a completely different person. Even Eva can't believe her eyes, calling out his name in disbelief. With crimson hair and burning eyes, Leonidas roars for them to stay away from her. His voice cracks with a power he's never known before. He charges forward, a blur of motion against the descending blade. With a desperate tackle, he slams into the soldier's midsection. The sheer force sends the armored man flying backward, disarmed. The soldier is stunned, grabbing a handful of the kid's hair in rage. But Leonidas holds on, his eyes burning with pure defiance. A brutal punch to the gut ends his heroic stand rather abruptly. The impact knocks the wind right out of him, his body seizing in pain. He collapses to the ground, his shonen power-up apparently on a timer. The soldier retrieves his sword, ready to end this little rebellion. The soldier glares down, deciding to eliminate the defiant slave boy first. Leonidas is still reeling, shocked that his body moved on its own. Eva desperately pleads for his life, trying to take the blame herself. But the commander looms over him, declaring that a slave's defiance is unforgivable. In that moment, Leonidas sees no difference between these soldiers and his old bosses. He realizes that no matter the world, this kind of cruelty is just plain wrong. The soldier brings his blade down, a swift arc of light meant to end it all. But to everyone's shock, Leonidas is still standing, completely unharmed. He can suddenly see the path of the attack, a clear line of light. With a newfound clarity, he effortlessly sidesteps the deadly strike. His comrade urges him to finish the job with grim plans for Eva. The commander looks on, a silent statue of Spartan authority. They tell the defiant slave boy not to get ahead of himself. The soldier screams that slaves are trash with no right to live. But those words strike a painfully familiar chord in Leonidas. He's thrown back to his old life, to the echoes of corporate cruelty. Eva's warning about their world now rings with brutal clarity. A lifetime of being treated as worthless finally reaches its breaking point. He roars back with every fiber of his being that they are not trash. Enraged, the soldier swings again, demanding his silence. He sidesteps again, declaring that they are the ones who don't care for others. He roars that they are the true trash, landing a devastating punch to the face. The sheer force of the blow sends the armored soldier flying backward. From the ground, the soldier looks up at the boy who just overpowered him. But Leonidas is just as stunned, his adrenaline-fueled rage giving way to shock. He stares at his own hand, unable to comprehend its newfound power. The question hangs in the air. Was that really him? The soldier's face contorts in terror, his Spartan pride officially shattered. Leonidas stands over his foe, with Eva and the others watching in disbelief. He's still reeling, trying to understand what just happened. He stares at his hand, questioning the source of this sudden power. Eva and the other slaves can only stare, calling out his name in disbelief. But the commander calls a halt, stopping his man from finishing the job. He dismounts his horse, his presence immediately commanding the field. A palpable aura of power radiates from him as he approaches. Leonidas immediately senses that this man is on a completely different level. The commander's sheer presence is overwhelming, a clear and present danger. Instead of anger, the commander seems intrigued by the boy's defiance. Our boy is completely thrown off by this unexpected turn of events. The defeated soldier protests, reminding his captain that Leonidas is just a slave. The soldier's rage is cut short by the flat of his commander's blade. The captain's voice is cold steel, reminding his man of the chain of command. He asks if he'll defy an order or be cut down for losing to a slave. The soldier's pride shatters, and he can only submit to his superior. Suddenly, Leonidas is seized by two guards, his confusion mounting. The commander then turns his attention to our boy, offering a strange deal. If Leonidas comes with him, he'll spare the lives of the other two. He realizes he can save Eva by sacrificing himself. But to what fate? Eva cries out, insisting that he doesn't have to do this for them. But her words from before echo in his mind. His promise to build a better world. Her words echo in his mind, a dream of a world without fear. For the first time in either life, someone is counting on him. He realizes this might be the very reason he was reborn. With a newfound resolve, Leonidas agrees to the commander's terms. But he has one condition. They must never harm the others again. The commander agrees with a smug grin, ordering his men forward. As he's led into the night, Eva cries out his name in desperation. Her name is the only thing on his mind. She can only watch, her face a mask of pure terror. He turns back with a brave smile, telling her to protect her father. Eva can only watch, a silent curse on her lips as he's taken away. He's marched off into the unknown, her voice fading behind him. His destination is the legendary Spartan Military Academy, so a promotion. Leonidas is completely bewildered by this sudden change of scenery. Inside, he's greeted by the sight of a brutal training session. A blonde-haired brawler relentlessly pummels his opponent into the sand. The beatdown is swift and merciless, a flurry of powerful strikes. The defeated man lies on the ground, battered and bleeding but not broken. His attacker grins, clearly enjoying every second of the one-sided fight. He finishes the match by slamming his opponent's face into the dirt. He adds insult to injury with a final bloody taunt. The victor stands over the loser, a picture of pure dominance. He spits out a bit of his own blood, completely unfazed. A severed ear lands in the sand, a grim trophy of the fight. Wiping his mouth, he looks ready for another round. Leonidas can only watch, his face a mask of pure shock. The brawler screams that this weakness will never defeat Persia. His opponent lies broken, a lesson for all to see. Leonidas realizes the rumors about this place were an understatement. An instructor grabs him, announcing he's the next challenger. Leonidas is completely lost, unable to process the sudden turn of events. He argues that as a slave, he can't fight. But the commander says Sparta needs all the strength it can get. The commander then points to the brawler, announcing their duel is set for tomorrow. Our boy panics, screaming that he's never even been in a real fight before, and his first opponent is a psychopath who literally bites off people's ears. No pressure. But the commander explains that in Sparta, only strength is justice and offers him a deal. If Leonidas can defeat the brawler, he will be granted citizenship. The offer hits him like a lightning bolt. Freedom means he can finally see Eva again. He then asks the million-dollar question, what happens if he loses? The commander's grin is pure ice as he reveals the simple, brutal alternative, death. Leonidas is completely stunned by the commander's brutal ultimatum. He's being asked to fight a life-or-death battle against a human monster, a man who just finished dismantling his last opponent with a sadistic grin. But the commander's words ring with the harsh truth of this new world. Our boy can't process it, a slave dueling a seasoned warrior. The fear is real. One mistake means his second life is over before it began. He flashes back to his old life, where the worst he faced were bullies, not executioners. The commander walks away, casually scheduling the duel for the next day. He then assigns a young woman to give Leonidas the grand tour of his potential tomb. The commander leaves with a chilling smile, clearly looking forward to the show. He can't believe his luck. Reincarnated just to be executed. A hand is extended, a friendly greeting in this brutal place. The young woman introduces herself as Tertius, but goes by Ter. Leonidas is still trying to process who this person is. He introduces himself, letting slip his origins in the slave village. The words hang in the air, and Leonidas immediately regrets them. He panics, remembering that citizens often kill slaves for sport. But Ter just smiles, brushing off his past and leading him away. She leads him to a grand building, the Academy's barracks. Inside are the simple quarters where the citizen soldiers live and train. The dining hall is as Spartan as the name implies. Ter explains that everything here is dedicated solely to battle. Leonidas realizes this life might be even harder than slavery. Ter offers to give our boy a crash course on Spartan society. She explains their training begins at age 7, with full combat at 12. Leonidas realizes this is even worse than his old corporate job. They train non-stop until 18, completely cut off from their families. Only the strongest survive to become full-fledged soldiers. He panics, realizing he won't see Eva again for 5 long years. Ter adds that this communal life continues even after graduation. Leonidas questions why everyone is so obsessed with fighting. Ter explains that with slaves outnumbering citizens 5-1, force is the only way they maintain control. But she admits she's against this oppression, knowing they rely on the slaves to survive. Leonidas is stunned to find a citizen who thinks this way. He calls her kind, but she gets flustered, quickly denying it. She admits she's weak and often bullied, so she understands his position. He realizes that Ter might be a true ally in this brutal world. But their conversation is cut short by an unwelcome voice. It's the ear-biting brawler, and he's come to greet the newcomer. Leonidas immediately recognizes the psychopath he's scheduled to fight to the death. The brawler gets right in his face, asking about his slave origins. But Leonidas stands his ground, refusing to be intimidated. The brawler then asks a question so stupid it's almost impressive. He and his lackeys erupt in laughter at their own cruel joke. He pities Leonidas, calling him unlucky for being born a slave, and even unluckier to be matched against him for his first and last fight. Leonidas can only glare, while Ter watches on with growing concern. The brawler then turns his attention to Ter, surprised she's still around. She forces a nervous smile, confirming she's somehow still breathing. His friendly greeting is cut short as he grabs her by the collar. The brawler sneers that weaklings like her have no place in Sparta. Leonidas watches, a painful sense of familiarity washing over him. He mocks her for finding a friend, then throws her to the ground. He cracks his knuckles, offering to give her some special training. Ter can only force a pained smile, trying to endure the humiliation. But for Leonidas, this scene is a ghost from his past. He's thrown back to his old life, a world of corporate bullies and forced smiles. As the brawler's fist flies, he's suddenly interrupted. Ter flinches, bracing for the inevitable, brutal impact. But the blow never lands. A hand intercepts it mid-swing. Leonidas stands firm, his grip unyielding on the brawler's fist. The brawler is completely stunned by this slave's sudden defiance. Leonidas calmly explains that they were in the middle of a conversation. He insists that Ter has nothing to do with their conflict. The brawler seethes, enraged that this nobody is protecting the weakling. He rips his arm free, his patience officially at its end. A dark aura surrounds him as he dares Leonidas to repeat himself. But our boy doesn't back down, stating again that Ter is not involved. The brawler roars, pretending he can't hear the kid's death wish. He unleashes a devastating punch, aiming to silence Leonidas for good. Both Leonidas and Ter are stunned by his sudden act of defiance, but the brawler just smirks, deciding to let it slide for today. He reminds Leonidas of their duel, looking forward to their match. Our boy immediately panics, realizing he just poked a very angry bear. Ter is in awe, admitting she's never been brave enough to stand up to him. She apologizes for getting him involved, but Leonidas insists it was his choice. She then brings up the ear-biting incident, a grim reminder of his opponent's brutality. She reveals a horrifying rumor. He eats the parts he bites off his opponents. He apparently believes consuming his foes makes him stronger. So, a protein shake with a side of cannibalism. She warns Leonidas to be careful of this man, whose name is Eurotas. Leonidas is completely panicked, realizing be careful is useless advice against a cannibal. The next day arrives, bringing with it the promised duel. The trainees are gathered on a large wooden raft, a makeshift arena on the open water. An instructor announces today's lesson is pancration, a brutal form of wrestling. But first, he pulls a live chicken from a cage for a little demonstration. He casually tosses the bird into the churning waves below. A massive shark erupts from the water, devouring the chicken in a single bloody bite. Leonidas and Ter can only stare in horror, realizing the stakes have been raised. The instructor warns them that the sharks are starving, so falling is not an option. Leonidas recalls the brutal wrestling of Pancration, now with a side of shark-infested waters. The instructor's words hang in the air as the shark's fin cuts through the waves. He asks if they finally understand the purpose of this deadly training ground. One of the trainees questions the need for naval combat, as Sparta is a land power. The instructor explains the Persian Empire is already invading across the sea. He declares they must master ship combat to meet the enemy head-on. Leonidas and Ter realize this is the authentic Spartan education they've heard about. So, no health insurance. The instructor orders the trainees to prepare for their individual matches. With a single word, the first brutal duel of the day begins. Two young soldiers immediately clash in a flurry of desperate wild strikes. One lands a vicious blow, a clear sign of the brutality to come. The trainee lands a brutal blow, his knuckles cracking against armor. A powerful strike sends his opponent flying off the wooden raft. The loser hits the churning water, his fate sealed in an instant. A massive shark erupts from the depths, its jaws wide for the kill. Leonidas and Ter can only watch, their faces frozen in pure horror. But Eurotas, the ear-biting brawler, looks on without a flicker of emotion. He and his lackeys share a cruel smirk, clearly enjoying the show. Leonidas screams, asking why no one is helping, but Ter knows the grim truth. The water turns red, a grim confirmation of the Academy's zero-tolerance policy. Leonidas stares, the brutal reality of his new life finally sinking in. One of the trainees vomits over the side, unable to stomach the brutality. But Eurotas just scoffs, calling their weakness a disgrace to Sparta. The trainee realizes this place is even worse than the corporate hell he came from. The instructor then announces the final match of the day, Eurotas versus the newcomer. Leonidas's foot trembles, the fear of the moment finally setting in. His name echoes across the raft as he's called to face his opponent. The instructor stands between them, a referee in a fight to the death. He reminds Leonidas of the stakes, win, and he becomes a citizen. No pressure. Our boy can only stare, the weight of his promise to Eva on his shoulders. With a deep breath, he takes his stance, ready to face the monster. Leonidas stands ready, his body tense with a mix of fear and resolve. Eurotas mocks his trembling, asking if the kid is feeling a chill. Without warning, the brawler lunges forward with blinding speed. Leonidas is stunned, unable to even track his opponent's movement. In an instant, Eurotas has him trapped in a crushing bear hug. He realizes this isn't just brute strength, it's practiced, brutal skill. A sadistic grin spreads across the brawler's face as he tightens his grip. And then he lives up to his reputation, sinking his teeth into Leonidas's shoulder. A scream of pure agony rips from our boy's throat. The brawler rips away a piece of flesh, sending Leonidas stumbling backward. Eurotas spits out the bloody piece of flesh he just tore off. It lands in the water, sending ripples through the blood-red waves. The sharks below go into a frenzy, drawn by the scent of fresh blood. Leonidas clutches his shoulder, realizing he's facing the worst possible opponent. His right arm is completely useless, the bleeding impossible to stop. Eurotas radiates a terrifying aura, his grin promising more pain to come. Leonidas desperately tries to think, to find any way out of this nightmare. The pain is immense, and his vision starts to blur from the blood loss. He's trapped, facing a monster he can't possibly defeat. The brawler charges again, roaring that he's coming for the other arm. Leonidas knows that if he gets caught again, it's all over. But in a flash of inspiration, a desperate plan takes shape. He dodges the brawler's lunge, preparing a surprise of his own. He spits a mouthful of blood directly into Eurotas's eyes. The brawler is stunned, his vision completely obscured. Leonidas roars that no matter how much you train your body, there's one weak point that's always vulnerable. A truly noble strategy. But his desperate kick is caught mid-air, stopping him cold. Eurotas holds his leg firm, his grip an unbreakable vice. The brawler's face contorts with rage at the forbidden move. But the brawler's leg is already moving, a powerful counterattack. He drives a brutal knee into Leonidas's gut, ending the cheap shot. A wave of pure agony rips through our boy's entire body. He collapses to the deck, completely winded and defenseless. Eurotas yanks him up, sneering that the real fight is just beginning. A devastating punch connects, sending a spray of blood across the raft. The brawler puts his entire weight behind the blow, a show of pure dominance. Lying on the deck, Leonidas realizes this isn't a duel, it's an execution. Eurotas roars his simple philosophy, the weak deserve only to die, and just as the final blow is about to fall, the scene cuts to the past. We're pulled into the brawler's past, to a small, isolated home. A young Eurotas and his brother endure a brutal, familiar beating. Their tormentor is their own father, a one-armed, worthless drunk. He drowns his failures in alcohol, his face a mask of bitter rage. Their mother, their only shield, died giving birth to the younger son. So Eurotas took it upon himself to protect his terrified little brother. His father screams that this cruelty is to toughen them for war. Father of the year, clearly. He was once a proud Spartan warrior, a hero of the nation. But after losing an arm in battle, he was cast aside, deemed useless. In a land that honors glorious death, his survival was a disgrace. His father's face is a mask of bitter resentment and rage. He demands to know how long Eurotas will protect his weak trash brother. He screams that in Sparta, weaklings are completely unnecessary. The younger brother can only watch, frozen in absolute terror. His father's rage then turns on the smaller boy with a brutal kick. The child screams in agony, blood spraying from his mouth. Eurotas desperately grabs his father, pleading for him to stop. But he's swatted away, told to come back ready to kill. His little brother clings to his leg, his small voice begging for help. And in that moment, a dark resolve hardens in Eurotas' eyes. With a desperate cry, Eurotas leaps onto his father's back. His father roars that protecting a weakling is a worthless endeavor. In a flash of rage, the boy sinks his teeth into his father's ear. But instead of pain, his father's face twists into a sadistic grin, urging him on. The young boy draws blood, his own face a mask of pain desperation. He's thrown to the ground, told to finish the job if he's going to start it. With the protector down, the father turns back to his true target. The younger brother is frozen in terror, completely broken by the abuse. The father looks down at his own son with nothing but pure disgust. And then he delivers another brutal blow, a lesson in Spartan cruelty. The boy's head smacks against the wall, his eyes rolling back in pain. He slumps to the ground, a broken doll in a pool of his own blood. Eurotas screams his brother's name, his voice filled with pure horror. He kneels beside him, repeating his father's cruel lesson about the weak. But his father's feet are already moving, his decision already made. He carries the boy away with Eurotas screaming for him to stop. The father's philosophy is simple. The weak have no right to live. And with that, he throws his own son from a cliff. Parenting in Sparta is different. Eurotas can only reach out, his brother's name a desperate, useless cry. Tears stream down his face, a silent testament to the day his world broke. Tears and blood mix as the boy's world completely shatters. He can only watch his little brother fall into the abyss below. His father's voice echoes, justifying the murder of his own son, Creon. He claims it was all for the boy's own good. A twisted logic where the weak are simply better off dead. He walks away, leaving Eurotas kneeling in the dirt of his broken home. The boy can only apologize, his words lost to the wind. A single thought burns in his mind. If only he had been stronger. Months later, that grief has hardened into pure, unadulterated rage. His father, the source of his pain, drank himself into an early grave. So, a happy ending for one of them, at least. Left alone, Eurotas was forced to survive on the streets. Every day was a desperate, bloody struggle for his next meal. He learned quickly that mercy was a luxury he couldn't afford, and slowly he became the very monster he once despised. He adopted his father's creed. The weak are evil, the strong are justice. He came to believe his father had been right all along. The only thing that mattered was overwhelming, absolute power. And now he screams that same philosophy at the boy beneath him. Leonidas realizes that even in a new life, he's still powerless. The words echo his past, a lifetime of being called worthless trash. The same insults, the same casual cruelty from his old boss. A chorus of voices calling him incompetent, useless trash. And now, Eurotas delivers another crushing, brutal blow. Leonidas is thrown back, his body broken and bleeding on the raft. But through the pain, he asks if weak people have no right to live. Eurotas confirms it with a cold, unwavering certainty. Leonidas struggles to his feet, insisting that everyone has value. But the brawler scoffs, tired of all this pretty talk. As he falls, the pendant from Eva slips from his tunic. Her voice echoes in his mind, a promise to become king. Her name is a desperate, bloody whisper on his lips. He clutches the pendant, a physical reminder of his promise. He knows that if he dies here, his promise dies with him. A fiery aura erupts as he vows to build the world she dreamed of. But Eurotas just grins, ready to deliver the final lesson. He roars that in Sparta, the weak are nothing more than trash. But that one word strikes a deeply personal, painful chord. As Ter watches in shock, something inside Leonidas finally ignites. With every fiber of his being, he screams that he is not trash. For the first time, the brawler seems genuinely taken aback. A crimson aura erupts around Leonidas, stunning his opponent. He lunges forward, his eyes burning with a newfound power. A brutal uppercut sends the brawler reeling backward. Eurotas can't comprehend this sudden surge of strength. With a bloody snarl, Leonidas declares himself a Spartan warrior. But the adrenaline rush is quickly followed by a wave of pain. He fights through it, delivering a desperate, bone-shattering headbutt. Blood sprays as the brawler's face meets our boy's forehead. The unexpected blow sends Eurotas stumbling across the raft, and with a final roar, he vows that he will become king. Eurotas stumbles back, unable to believe he's losing to trash. He grabs Leonidas by the collar, his rage boiling over. He delivers a brutal headbutt of his own, screaming at the kid's arrogance. Leonidas is thrown off balance, the force of the blow rattling him. Eurotas screams that he's annoying trash, unleashing another punch. But Leonidas roars back, demanding he take it back with a punch of his own. The brawler retaliates with a vicious uppercut, declaring Sparta has no need for him. Leonidas refuses to be silenced, landing a desperate blow to the chest. Eurotas screams his father's creed, the weak are not needed. He puts all his strength into one final blow, roaring that they are trash. He screams that oppressing others is the true mark of trash. He ignores the searing pain in his arm, his will overriding his body. He roars that Eurotas is the real worthless garbage, landing a devastating blow. The sheer force of the punch sends the brawler flying across the raft. He crashes to the deck, completely stunned by the slave boy's power. The adrenaline fades, leaving Leonidas gasping for air, his body screaming in protest. Eurotas lies broken on the wood, the fight seemingly over. But the commander speaks, agreeing that weak trash has no place here. And with a brutal kick, he sends the defeated Eurotas into the churning waves below. The brawler sinks beneath the surface, his fate now in the hands of the sharks. As he sinks, Eurotas accepts his fate, his own creed sealing his doom. He falls toward the waiting jaws, convinced he was right all along. But his final thoughts are of his brother, Creon, the one he failed to save. His mind flashes back to a time when strength was just a tool for protection. He remembers the simple promise he made to his adoring little brother. He would become Sparta's greatest warrior, a shield against their cruel world. A memory of a time when he was just a hero in his brother's eyes. But that promise now fades into the darkness of the deep. The tough facade finally cracks, replaced by pure, primal terror. He realizes he's about to die, just like the weak he always despised. Calm as a shark, apparently, but his will to live ignites, and he punches the shark head-on. The blow connects, but a far greater threat rises from the abyss. He can only stare as a truly colossal shark ascends past him. He realizes there are monsters in this world far beyond his own strength. With his last thoughts, he apologizes to the brother he couldn't save. He falls into the abyss, his promise to Creon broken forever. But a spear cuts through the water, a sudden, impossible intervention. The massive shark is impaled, its attack halted in an instant. Apparently it's not Shark Week. Eurotas is left completely stunned, his execution suddenly postponed. On the raft, Leonidas clings to the commander, having thrown the spear himself. The scene rewinds, taking us back just 3 minutes in time. On the raft, the duel is over and Eurotas is gone from sight. Leonidas and the commander stare down at the ripples in the water. Our boy knows that at this rate, Eurotas will be eaten by the sharks. He tries to convince himself that this is fine, that it's a fitting end. But he feels no satisfaction, even though the man tried to kill him. His mind flashes back to his old boss's cruel philosophy. A world where you survive by stepping on others to get ahead. Suddenly, Ter and the other trainees spot something massive in the distance. A truly colossal shark erupts from the depths, dwarfing all the others. The commander casually identifies the beast as a rare megashark. Leonidas knows with grim certainty that Eurotas is about to die. His hand grips the raft as he questions if he can just let this happen. He turns to the commander, declaring he's borrowing his spear. With a swift motion, he snatches the weapon from his superior's grasp. A crimson aura ignites as he roars that this just doesn't feel right. He hurls the spear with impossible force, a beam of light into the depths. The commander can only stare, stunned by the boy's sudden action. The water erupts as the spear finds its colossal target. The megashark rears back, impaled directly through the eye. Ter and Leonidas watch in disbelief, realizing the impossible shot actually landed. Down below, Eurotas surfaces, gasping for air, his life spared by a hair's breadth. Leonidas calls out his name, a desperate plea across the water. Ignoring his own wounds, he offers a hand to the man who just tried to kill him. The brawler can only stare, completely baffled by this act of kindness. In a moment of pure defiance, the slave boy pulls his enemy from the jaws of death. With a final heave, he drags the defeated brawler back onto the raft. They collapse onto the deck, two exhausted fighters in a moment of stunned silence. So much for that death match. But the commander's voice cuts through the quiet, calling the act ridiculous. He looms over Leonidas, his clenched fist a clear sign of his displeasure. A brutal punch connects, a harsh lesson in Spartan gratitude. Leonidas is sent flying, his act of mercy repaid with pure force. He crashes through the raft's railing, inches from the churning water. As Ter helps him, he realizes the commander's power is on another level. The commander looms over him, his aura radiating absolute authority. He roars that on the battlefield, those who show mercy are the first to die. Leonidas and Ter can only stare, stunned by the brutal lesson. The other trainees are frozen in terror, the reality of their world sinking in. He ends the lesson, disappointed that only 4 people died today. So, a C- for effort. But his judgment is confirmed. This slave boy is no ordinary person. Ter helps the battered Leonidas, his victory feeling anything but triumphant. On the raft, Eurotas lies defeated, his world completely upended. He can only curse his own weakness, saved by the very trash he despised. Night falls over the brutal academy, but for some, there is no rest. In the barracks, Leonidas lies awake, his body aching from the fight. He stares at his hand, still unable to process the day's events. He won the duel and earned his citizenship, but the prize is more brutality. And with 5 years of training ahead, he can't return to Eva. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps breaks the silence of the night. He sits up, wondering who would be visiting him at this hour. The visitor is none other than Eurotas, the man he just defeated. His face is bruised, his expression a mix of anger and something else. Leonidas immediately assumes the worst. He's here for revenge. But instead of a punch, a small pouch is thrown right at his face. He catches it, completely confused by the unexpected gift. Eurotas explains it's a medicinal herb to help with his wounds. He clarifies that this isn't a thank you, calling Leonidas crazy for saving him. Leonidas can only offer a small, knowing smile in return. The brawler insists he just doesn't like being in anyone's debt. He vows to repay the debt on the battlefield, leaving Leonidas with a new, very complicated ally. But the commotion has woken Ter, who watches him from her bunk. She realizes that Leonidas has the power to change even a monster like Eurotas. She wonders if he's destined for greatness, but quickly dismisses the thought. Leonidas looks at the gift, a small smile on his bruised face. Meanwhile, in the heart of the Persian Empire, a seer reads the future. They sit at the center of a vast astrological map, divining the stars. A shadowy ruler asks for the results of their celestial reading. The seer reveals that in Sparta, a new crimson light has been born. Though weak now, this light is fated to become a threat to their entire empire. The ruler scoffs, declaring that any opposition to Persia will be extinguished. He vows to extinguish this small light with an overwhelming darkness. This is the ruler of the vast Persian Empire, Emperor Darius I. He believes that even the smallest problems must be crushed immediately. He entrusts this mission to one of his 12 divine generals, Al-Murray. The general kneels, readily accepting the order to snuff out this new threat. Darius admits the mission is difficult, but he has high expectations. Al-Murad is honored, declaring the generals are merely extensions of the king's will. He vows to dedicate his entire being to fulfilling his majesty's command. A true company man. As the general turns to leave, his deadly mission now set in motion, but the emperor calls out another name, summoning a new figure from the shadows. He orders a blue-haired woman to follow Murat's trail to Sparta, but he adds a crucial condition. She must remain completely unseen. He explains that even a divine general might fall to Sparta's elite. Her true mission is to clean up the mess if Murat fails. She accepts without question, vanishing in a flash of light. The emperor is left alone, contemplating his far-reaching plans. A confident smirk reveals he's a man who leaves nothing to chance. Meanwhile, the General Al-Murat rides hard for the Spartan border. But even a divine general can't shake the feeling he's being watched. He stops his horse, calling out the name of his unseen shadow, Mausa. He scoffs, declaring that for a mission of this level, he alone is sufficient. But Mausa appears from the trees, telling him not to get so cocky. She reminds him he's the lowest-ranked general, a disposable pawn. Murat retorts, accusing her of charming her way into her position. So, it's a toxic workplace even in the Persian Empire. His words strike a nerve and her face contorts with pure rage. In a blur of motion, she leaps from her perch. She appears behind him, a dagger to his throat, asking if he has a death wish. But Murat just smiles, completely unfazed by the blade at his neck. He reminds her of their duty, of the important mission given by their king. He appeals to their shared loyalty, asking if she understands their role as the king's hands. She lowers her blade, the tension between them still palpable. Murat smirks, confident this mission will earn him a promotion over her. Mausa's face twists in rage at his sheer arrogance. With a final taunt, he rides off, leaving her in his dust. She can only seethe, calling him nothing more than an attack dog. Meanwhile, back at the Spartan military academy, a new day begins. Leonidas, Eurotas, and Ter are exhausted after another brutal lesson. Ter cheerfully notes that at least no one died, earning a glare from Eurotas. The trainees gather in the dining hall, their bodies aching from the day's training. But the sight of food makes Leonidas forget all his pain. A man of simple needs. But the meal of the day is a grim-looking purple sludge called melas zomos. A quick history lesson reveals it's a stamina soup made from pig's blood. So, not exactly gourmet. The trainees are forced to eat it daily, with better food reserved only for victors. Eurotas complains it tastes worse than toilet water, a review that probably won't make it to Yelp. Ter questions his culinary expertise, forcing him to admit it's just a figure of speech. But Leonidas looks on with sparkling eyes, declaring the slop looks delicious. He flashes back to his old life, to the lonely taste of instant noodles at midnight. He realizes that even disgusting soup is better when you have friends to share it with. As he prepares to dig in, Ter watches with a look of sudden alarm. She lunges forward, trying to stop him from taking his first fateful bite. But her hand slaps his meal away, sending it crashing to the floor. She points with a look of pure terror, telling him to look. Across the hall, another trainee convulses, spewing blood. Ter's voice trembles as she reveals the horrifying truth. The soup was poisoned and bodies are dropping all around them. Eurytus can't believe it, wondering who is behind this attack. A sinister voice cuts through the chaos, a masked man in the doorway. The three turn. Their faces a mask of pure shock and confusion. It's the divine general, Al-Murat, here to extinguish Sparta's new light. But Leonidas glares back, demanding to know who this intruder is. He introduces himself as the 12th divine general of the Persian Empire. His name is Murat, and he wears a smile that promises nothing but pain. He admits he doesn't know which of them is the prophesied light. So, to be safe, he's just going to graciously kill all three of them. The trio stands together, facing the lone assassin in the silent hall. Leonidas can't believe it. This is one of King Darius's direct subordinates. The 12 strongest warriors in the empire, known as the King's Hands. So, a very exclusive and murdery book club. Our boy asks if that means he's strong, but Ter's face says it all. But he questions why such a powerful enemy would be here, at a school. Murat simply states that their questions don't matter, as they're about to die. But Eurytus roars that he doesn't care who he is. He hurt their friends. The bodies of their fallen comrades litter the floor, a grim testament to the attack. Fueled by pure rage, the brawler charges forward, vowing to make him pay. Murat just smirks, calling the desperate attack reckless. From his cane, he unsheathes a hidden blade with a flash of light. A classic villain accessory. The blade moves in a blur, leaving a thin red line across Eurytus' face. The brawler tries to shrug it off, but the general remains unimpressed. But a sudden wave of shock washes over his face as his body seizes. He collapses to his knees, his strength suddenly abandoning him. A strange numbness spreads through his body, a terrifying, unseen poison. Ter screams out, realizing the blade was coated in poison. Eurytus connects the dots, the soup, the blade. It's all poison. Murat just smirks, confirming he's a master of toxins. Leonidas roars at the cowardly tactics, demanding a real fight. But the general just laughs, saying his only goal is their death. He scoffs that honor is irrelevant, the method doesn't matter. He then raises his cane, revealing its true purpose as a blowgun. So, a very stabby flute. Leonidas screams a warning, diving behind a wooden table for cover. The three of them huddle together as a volley of darts flies past. The general unleashes a hail of poisoned needles into the room. The poisoned darts slam into their makeshift wooden cover. Leonidas questions why a general would target mere rookies. Terror realizes he's here to cut down Sparta's future soldiers. Eurotas curses his cowardly tactics, urging them to escape. But Terror panics, knowing they stand no chance against a divine general. Leonidas cautiously peeks over their cover, looking for an opening. Murat calmly reloads his weapon, ready for another volley. Another hail of darts reinforces just how trapped they truly are. Our boy admits they can't win, but his mind is already racing. He knows if this man escapes, countless innocent lives will be at risk. Leonidas declares they have to hold him off until help arrives. But Terror is frozen, ashamed that her first thought is self-preservation. She clenches her fist, disgusted by her own cowardice. Eurotas asks the obvious question. How do they stop a divine general? He quickly analyzes the situation, noting the general's ranged tactics. Judging by his build, he might not be a close-quarters fighter. A flicker of hope ignites in Terror's eyes. This might not be impossible. Leonidas asks if Eurotas can still fight, and the brawler grits his teeth, ready for round 2. But Murat grows tired of the game, his dark aura intensifying. Leonidas calls out to Terror, and the two prepare to make their move. Leonidas and Terror spring into action, launching their desperate plan. They hurl wooden plates, a rather underwhelming opening move. The general scoffs, swatting the projectiles away with ease. But from the side, Eurotas charges in for the real attack. The general is stunned, realizing he fell for their diversion. He roars that the plates were just a simple, effective decoy. His fist connects with a devastating, bone-shattering impact. Leonidas and Terror celebrate, believing they've actually won. So much for that divine general title. The general's helmet clatters to the floor, a symbol of their victory. Eurotas stands over him, mocking the fallen general's weakness. Eurotas gloats that the divine generals are nothing special after all. But the fallen general begins to shake, not from pain, but from laughter. He repeats the insult, his voice dripping with pure, unhinged amusement. He rises, revealing a horribly scarred face, and promises a demonstration. The trio's triumphant expressions immediately shatter into pure shock. He points, his voice filled with rage at the way they're looking at him. He screams that he's endured those judgmental eyes his entire life, ever since a single fateful day that changed everything for him. And just like that, we're pulled back over a decade into the past. We see two young boys sparring, their faces full of innocent joy. We're in Persepolis, the capital of Persia, many years ago. A young Murat explains he was born with a small, weak body. His true passion was studying nature, especially plants and insects. He would proudly show his mother every new discovery he made. She encouraged his dream of becoming a great scholar one day, but his gentle nature was seen as a weakness in a harsh world. His two older brothers relentlessly bullied him for his frailty. He could only endure the beatings, pleading for them to stop. But his mother would always rush in to put an end to their cruelty. Her love was the only thing that helped him survive his childhood. But the bullying from his brothers only grew worse over time, until one day, their cruelty took a truly tragic turn. They mock his love for insects, deciding to give him a closer look. Their destination is a dark, hollowed-out tree, a perfect prison. The young boy pleads, his eyes wide with pure terror. But his pleas are ignored as he's shoved into the darkness. Trapped inside, he can only stare out from his wooden tomb. He soon realizes he's not alone, and his new roommates are less than ideal. He screams for his brothers, begging them to let him out. But they only watch on with cruel, empty smiles, enjoying his suffering. Inside, he's met with the terrifying face of a giant, venomous centipede. He screams in pure agony as the insects begin to crawl all over him. His brothers can only watch in shock as a giant centipede bursts from the tree. They realize their cruel prank has gone horribly, horribly wrong. Instead of helping, they beg him not to tell their parents and run away. He can only reach out, his pleas for help ignored by his fleeing brothers. His consciousness slowly returns, a sliver of light in the darkness. He wakes to the sound of a familiar voice calling out his name. He opens his eyes to see his mother, her face a mask of gentle concern. She tells him it's time to remove the bandages, unaware of the horror that lies beneath. Her hands gently unwind the bandages, ready to see her son again. But her gentle expression shatters into one of pure, undiluted horror. She and her attendant can only stare, unable to process the sight before them. The young boy, still unaware, asks his mother what's wrong. He turns to a mirror and finally sees the monster his brothers created. The reflection stares back, a permanent, horrifying reminder of their cruelty. After that day, his mother's visit stopped, leaving him in total isolation. He was no longer her son, just a weak, disfigured shame. Family of the year, right here. The boy begins to believe the cruel words, accepting his father's judgment. His brothers twist the knife, convincing their mother he's a stain on their noble name. His mother could only look away, her love replaced by shame. From the shadows, the boy overheard their plans to cast him aside. In that moment, he realized he had no allies left in the world. So he embraced the very thing that had scarred him for life. He decided to trust only himself, taking up a new hobby in toxicology. Years later, a young prince stands over the bodies of Murat's entire family. His brother, now dying, begs for the help he once denied. Murat coldly asks if he received any help when he was the one screaming. Even his mother, who abandoned him, is not spared from his vengeance. Her final words are a desperate, useless apology as the poison takes her. He turns away from his mother's body, his revenge now complete. In his eyes, there is no remorse, only a cold, hard resolve. He leaves his old life to burn, a final, bitter goodbye. The scene shifts to the Ionian Revolt, a rebellion against Persian rule. Inside a Greek camp, a soldier reports that the enemy is stalled. Their commander boasts that strategy, not just strength, wins wars. But his hand suddenly goes limp, his confident grip failing. The cup clatters to the floor, a sign that something is terribly wrong. The commander chokes, his own body turning against him. He collapses as his soldier realizes the horrifying truth. It's poison. From a nearby hill, Murat watches the chaos unfold with a satisfied smirk. He preaches his own philosophy. True force isn't limited to swords. His methods, though cruel, earned him a swift rise through the ranks. His fellow soldiers whisper about his latest promotion, won by poison. They scoff at his tactics, calling him an assassin, not a warrior. The thought of serving under him is a bitter pill for them to swallow. But Murat already knows he has no allies, and he doesn't need any. Several more years pass, his reputation growing with every kill. His achievements finally earn him an audience with the emperor himself. Darius appoints him a divine general, with a final cryptic command. He pledges his entire being to the king, a loyal hand to execute his will. He wonders if his mother can see him now from the afterlife. He has finally obtained the absolute status he always craved. And with that, the long and tragic backstory comes to an end. The trio can only stare, their brief victory turning to dread. He preaches that their strength is limited, but his wisdom is infinite. And he's about to prove it with a live demonstration. He scoffs that brute force can never defeat a superior mind. He'll show them which is more useful, using their lives as the test subjects. Leonidas realizes this man is a completely different kind of monster, but Ter looks on, realizing she and the general are surprisingly similar. A flashback reveals she was also physically weak and constantly bullied. She preferred studying over fighting, finding solace in her books. This isolated her from the other children, who saw her as an outcast. They mocked her relentlessly, calling her a weakling unfit for Sparta. But unlike Murat, she had a gentle hand to comfort her in her tears. She had a family who accepted her, a love Murat never knew. She realizes that without them, she could have become the same monster. A truly sobering thought. But Murat's rage consumes him, his entire worth tied to serving his king. He reveals hidden blades, declaring anyone who opposes his master an enemy. He unleashes a volley of poisoned blades, a storm of deadly steel. Eurotas grits his teeth trying to deflect the incoming projectiles. Ter's makeshift shield is quickly pierced by the relentless assault. One of the blades breaks through, inches from her terrified face. But Leonidas shoves her aside, screaming her name in desperation. Murat scoffs at their carelessness, preparing his next deadly move. He fires another volley, this time aimed directly at the defenseless Ter. She can only watch in horror as the poisoned darts fly toward her. But Leonidas throws himself in front of her, becoming a human shield. He screams in agony as the poisoned blades sink deep into his back. Ter can only scream his name, horrified by his selfless sacrifice. But Murat just laughs, promising to send them both to the afterlife together. Suddenly, Eurotas lifts a massive table, roaring in defiance. He hurls it with all his might, a desperate attempt to buy them some time. The trio regroups, with Eurotas urging them to stop wasting time and escape. He throws the wounded Leonidas over his shoulder as Ter points them toward the armory. But the general easily pushes the table aside, their attack barely a nuisance. He rises from the carnage, noting that his primary targets have fled. A sinister smile spreads across his face, clearly enjoying this little hunt. He holds up a bloody scroll, declaring the dead were just getting bored anyway. From the shadows, Mauza watches the general's hunt with disdain. She calls his performance pathetic, deciding to handle this herself. She can't believe her king would appoint such a weakling to their ranks. Meanwhile, in the armory, the trio tries to regroup and tend to their wounds. Eurotas performs some battlefield surgery, trying to get the poison out. Tur apologizes, knowing he was only hurt because he protected her. But Leonidas just smiles, insisting he's glad that she's safe. She's stunned that even now, his first thought is for her safety. She realizes that unlike Murat, she's been blessed, and wonders what she can do to help. But their moment of reflection is cut short by a familiar, unwelcome shadow. From the doorway, a horrifying swarm of giant centipedes emerges. The trio can only stare in shock, unable to believe the size of the creatures. Murat reveals these are the same monsters that scarred him for life. He smirks, promising that there is absolutely nowhere for them to run. He warns them that one bite from these things will melt their faces right off. So, a very aggressive chemical peel. But Eurotas refuses to go down without a fight, grabbing the nearest sword. He unleashes a powerful swing, slicing through the first wave of the swarm. But for everyone they kill, 10 more seem to take its place. One of the creatures sinks its fangs deep into Eurotas's leg. Leonidas cries out as another one latches onto him, its venom searing his flesh. Leonidas and Eurotas form a human shield, trying to protect Ter from the swarm. But the army of giant centipedes keeps advancing, trapping them in the armory. Ter is frozen, realizing she's once again the one being protected, completely useless. A surge of frustration hits her. She refuses to remain a burden forever. Her mind flashes back to her childhood, to a time she felt just as weak. But her mother's words echo, a promise that her knowledge would one day save someone. She realizes that if her mind is her weapon, she has to use it now. With a fire in her eyes, she declares that this is her moment to finally fight back. Her mind races, analyzing the creature's weaknesses and their environment for a solution. She turns to her friends, her voice filled with a strange confidence. They need to get outside. But Leonidas points out that this would unleash the monsters on the city. Turja smiles, confidently telling them to trust her plan. She tells them to run for the back exit on her signal. No questions asked. Eurotas questions the plan, but Leonidas insists they have to trust her. With a single word, they sprint for their lives in a desperate gamble. They crush several of the creatures underfoot as they make their escape. But one of the centipedes latches onto Eurotas's leg, its fangs sinking deep. Another one bites Leonidas, adding more poison to his already battered body. They burst through the door, only to find Murat waiting patiently for them. So much for that brilliant escape plan. The general mocks their retreat after all their talk of fighting fair. With a single command, Murat unleashes his venomous pets upon them. The trio sprints down the corridor, the swarm of centipedes closing in fast. Leonidas and Eurotas realize they're about to be overtaken by the nightmare creatures. But Ter screams for them to keep running, a desperate plan forming in her mind. The two boys burst from the darkness, sprinting into the open courtyard. From her hiding spot, Mauza watches the two targets emerge from the building. She's surprised to see only two, wondering where the third member of their party went. Back inside, Ter has found exactly what she was looking for. Her friends scream for her to hurry, knowing the swarm is seconds away. She struggles with a massive clay pot, her strange plan now in motion. With a mighty heave, she unleashes a wave of water into the corridor. Leonidas and Eurotas can only stare, completely baffled by the sudden turn of events. They look around, realizing the entire swarm of centipedes has vanished. Leonidas turns to Ter, demanding to know what just happened. She explains that centipedes are nocturnal and hate the sun, preferring humid places. So she created the perfect dark, wet trap, and they all crawled right in. Who knew biology was so useful? But Murat emerges from the darkness, calling their little trick ridiculous. He reminds them that outsmarting his pets doesn't change their fate. Tur whispers to her friends, telling them to get ready for her signal. The general reveals his ultimate poison, ready to end this fight for good. With a single word from Ter, the two boys sprint into action. The general is completely caught off guard by their sudden charge. Their target is a massive clay pot filled with water. With a combined effort, they lift the heavy container. They hurl it at the general, shattering it in a massive splash. Soaked and furious, Murat clutches his arm as his pets recoil. The trio celebrates, believing they've actually pulled it off. Leonidas declares it a comeback victory, a testament to their teamwork. He immediately gives all the credit to Ter's brilliant strategy. Tur can only stare, touched by his unwavering faith in her. Her mother's words echo, a promise that she can be useful even without strength. She turns to Murat, agreeing that wisdom is a weapon for the weak, but she declares that strength and wisdom are not meant for oneself. With a fiery roar, she proclaims they are meant to be used for your friends. Murat just laughs, asking if the bugs have finally gotten to her brain. He reveals his ultimate poison, boasting that he's immune to his own toxins. He spent years building a tolerance, a diet that would kill any normal person. Tear's confidence shatters, realizing her plan has a fatal flaw. The general smirks, reminding them that while he's immune, they are not. And just like that, Leonidas's legs give out from under him. The poison from the earlier attacks finally takes hold. He glances over, realizing Eurydice is also reaching his limit. Murat looms over them, a symbol of their impending doom. But Leonidas refuses to give up, his mind racing for a solution. He screams that he will defeat him, and all three of them will survive. His friends rally behind him, their spirits reignited by his will. The general just smirks, amused by their futile display of courage. He throws off his cloak, ready to unleash his final deadly weapon. He reveals a jar containing a mist 1,000 times deadlier than his pet's, a poison that will ride the wind and kill every last person in Sparta. So, no half measures then. But from the shadows, Mausa scoffs at his indiscriminate methods. Murat declares his only ally is the king, his loyalty absolute. He raises the jar high, screaming for the insects to perish. The trio can only brace for the end, their bodies failing them. But in a flash of light, the general's arms are severed midair. Well, that's one way to disarm someone. Murat can only stare in disbelief, his ultimate plan cut short. A mysterious warrior lands between them, her blade still smoking. She offers a casual smile, apologizing for her late arrival. Leonidas stares, completely bewildered by this sudden, powerful savior. The white-haired warrior stands tall, asking our boy for his name.